Hello everyone, I'm back with another Deadeye Icicle Mine update, and I played this character a bit since last time we saw each other. 99.5, I mapped on this for about 2 days doing mostly rituals, and honestly, it's been a blast. The character exceeded my expectations by quite a bit, but I wanna be honest about it, my gear is quite good, and the damage for bossing is very mediocre even with this gear level. If you actually wanted to make this character deal bossing, you would either have to drop some defense or use Nimis to basically double your single target, but I didn't really feel like I needed Nimis and I didn't want to tinker around with my gear to fit it in, so I ended up just playing without it. I was mostly mapping again, but I did like 2 tier 17s, both deathless. It was fine, but it's just like I have better characters for bossing, so I didn't really see the reason to push this into bossing too much, and this is where we ended up. Honestly, amazing character for farming like Ritual, Legion, Breach, and any mapping content really. Even like Beyond Delirium feels completely fine on it. The only map mods you really have to avoid are no regen, and then avoid elemental elements, and monsters cannot be slowed below action, like below their base action speed or whatever the wording is, because then you lose freeze. But otherwise, it was very solid and safe. I wasn't dying while mapping, except a few incidents with Zandra early on. Before I drop Vindancer. Turns out you can't really play Vindancer when you have Rogue Exhaust in your map, because the RT Rogue Exhaust will just own you. There's not much you can do. So I ended up dropping Vindancer, but keeping Kintsugi. It really liked Kintsugi. And yeah, the character was good. I think that's where I would leave it. I wouldn't call it an all-rounder, even though I could probably do all the content on this if I really tried. Like, I tried Uber Maven on this and it was fine. But again, it's not something I would recommend, because you actually have to play the fight, right? If a build has to play the fight, it doesn't mean it's boss viable. It just means that me as a player have an experience to kill the boss on this build. But realistically, the build has some single target issues at the very end game. But it doesn't matter for tier 16 maps, and there was no issues there at all. So I will go over the gear real quick and then show POB and talk a bit more about the strengths and weaknesses of the build. And yeah, so I ended up getting a way better one than I expected. I was just spamming Dread Essences for purge speed, and I ended up hitting +2. I was just hoping to get spell damage. And then since I hit so good, I was actually well orbing it for the double damage while focus, which I never used anyways, because I don't know, man, ever since I started playing softcore, I stopped pressing my buttons and crafted my throw speed. It's definitely a way better one than I expected to have here, but it is what it is. My shield, I actually have a full-on guide on how to craft this shield in my previous video. It's very good. It's basically exactly what I wanted. Cold damage, +1 cold, crit chance, life, regen, like everything you would need. So this is basically exactly what I would want to if I was importing from POB. Heat Shiver with regen corruption. Nothing too special, it wasn't too expensive. Regen's just nice to have, might as well get it. Amulet is Gloomfang, which gives you +1 chain, combined with Deadeye. Gives us +2 chain, and then we get a bunch of chaining range on the tree, and it elevates the clear to like an insane degree. I tried playing without this, and the clear felt a lot worse, so I would not really be replacing Gloomfang anytime soon. It felt really good. I have an amulet that I actually use for single target. By you just gem swap the amulet. It's just some +1 cold crit multi essence amulet with my throw speed crafted. And you drop the chain nodes for some nodes here in like Assassination or Saboteur, just for some extra damage if you ever want a single target on this build for like tier 17 maps or whatever you want to try. And yeah, otherwise I was running a Frostbite Ring, because thanks to this Thread of Hope, we actually have a second curse. The Thread of Hope is insane for this build, as it also gives Sanctuary, it also gives Efficient Explosives, Throat Seeker, Winter's Embrace, which makes our Heat Shiver a lot more consistent. It's really strong, you basically need that. And then Glacial Cage, which is extra damage on single target, doesn't really do much while clearing, but still worth the 1 point. So this is where our second curse is coming from. Our first curse is actually Assassin's Mark. It ended up being better than Sniper's Mark for me in POB. If you somehow have enough crit, you would probably use Sniper's Mark, but I did not really have that issue. So I was just using Assassin's Mark the entire time. The way I crafted this ring was Reforged Caster, get the suffixes, and then thanks to, you know, all good trusted friend Val Bristol Matron, when the suffixes are full, you craft this, Reforged Life, and you keep repeating until you hit a decent life, which I actually ended up hitting tier 1. And then you grab -7 mana cost. I don't actually think I need -7 mana cost on both of my rings, but It just makes everything comfier, and I never had any mana issues ever. But I think one of them is good enough. Similar crafting process would be for the Vermilion ring, but I ended up buying this ring, or well, I ended up buying the suffixes on the ring and then doing the same process with Reforged Life. And I ended up trying to redeem or slam because there's like 3 and 5 odds to get something good, and I didn't get anything good, but it's still good enough ring to fix my resistances. My Kintsugi is +4, which, you know, it's definitely better than you should expect. You should probably be expecting +2. But Icicle Mine has a lot of tags. It has Mine, it has Aura, AoE, Projectile. It is very easy to get a +2. An alternative here, if you are okay with dropping a little bit of defense, would be Victarius. I think it's called Victarius Influence. It's a body armor that has a +1 Aura on default, and then it's way easier to get double corrupted because there are cards for it. So if you cannot get a good Kintsugi, you could go for that one. But I think I would use +2 Kintsugi over it, even if you cannot get +4 or +3. But keep that in mind that there's other options for body armors. Just look for good corruptions. You could actually justify a lot of other body armors. All you need is actually just having good corruption, since it's so easy to hit a good one on Icicle. But the reason I chose Kintsugi is just to never get one-shot in maps, and it kind of helped. I feel like I never actually get one-shot. If I ever died, it was multi-hits. I really like this body armor, and I never get to use it in SSF, so I was just happy to use it. It feels good. It felt very good, especially against degens as well, with combination with Lethal Shade. I don't know. Solid body armor, if you can get it corrupted for this build, I think it's the best in slot. If you cannot get a good corruption, use Victarios, use something else. It's all good. It's not like build enabling, it just makes it feel better. Boots. I have rolled with Torment Essence for avoid being shocked. In combination with Abyss Jewel, it actually gives me 100% chance to avoid being shocked. And then we turned that into avoid all elements with Storm Shroud. So this is how we solved element immunity on this build this time around. And I also needed the intelligence because I accidentally, well, it wasn't an accident, but I unknowingly crafted a shield that has too much int requirement when selecting it through what's the name, Necropolis crafting system, and I had to get extra int on my gear. Otherwise I probably could have lived without the suffix, but it is what it is. We solved the problems, and now the build is working fine. But if you're gonna craft a shield for yourself, you should craft, I think it's called Chimning Spirit Shield or something. It's also 15% spell damage base, but it doesn't have as high int requirement as Harmonic Spirit Shield. So keep that in mind. My belt is just Strength Fracture, spamming Shrieking Essence of Zeal till I hit life and resist. Crafted damage, nothing too special, but it does solve all of our strength issues, giving us literally 108 strength, basically the only strength we get on the skill tree, and it solves it all. And then gloves, similar to the shield, I made a video where I went over the way how I crafted these gloves, but you fracture, you spam essence, and then you do Valve Wisdom Major, and prefix is gonna be changed, Reforged Life, until you hit either high life or high hybrid life. And this is what we ended up with. We also have chance to suppress extra to get to 100, and we further get that with tattoos. I think I have 2 tattoos because I was at 96 or 97 in total, and then a nerf on hit. Speaking of tattoos, people should really not forget about them, because they can fix like these small holes that a lot of builds have. Like if you're missing a little bit of suppression, a little bit of chaos rest, just make sure to remember tattoos exist, or even like lightning rest, fire rest. They can solve a lot of problems that people often forget about. Okay, let's take a look at the POB. We have a Parent Aspect in this slot that gives us 76% chaos rest. It doesn't work in POB, so I had to write it down in the config, but this slot is insane for Parent Aspect for this build, as we would be taking these points anyways. You could use it cold damage instead, but I don't know. I just wanted the chaos stress instead of having 114% increased cold damage. It would be like 15 to 20% more damage, but I opted for the chaos stress for mapping just because it feels better. And I didn't really feel like I needed more damage for maps, so this is where we ended. I have a little pride that's decent. Actually, it's really good. Decent is an understatement, but you can just replace it with a live double crit multi-jewel, and you're only gonna lose a little bit of defense from Fist Taken as far as the damage will remain the same as 5% double damage and like 4% life nodes. It only hits 4 nodes, so even though it's an insane little pride for those 4 nodes, it's not like irreplaceable or anything. Thread of Hope, pretty much mandatory, as I already mentioned. This is just really, really good. Grace Evade Watcher's Eye, this is core of our defense. Since our evasion is already so high, this just makes it way more efficient. You pretty much I wanna say always should use this on evasion-based characters, but probably sometimes even I opt for damage instead. But we don't have damage auras anyway, so this is just a no-brainer. And then Storm Shroud with the Jewel for element immunity. The one thing I wanna talk about on the cluster is Blast Freeze, though. Blast Freeze felt amazing. The Freeze Prolif is insane. I really like Blast Freeze. Combined with Prismatic Heart and Widespread Destruction in the back. It was actually a very cheap cluster. I didn't end up switching to the other cluster that was more expensive just to get like 5% more damage with Blanketed Snow. But I didn't want to drop the Freeze Prolif because I didn't really have the slot for it on Glove Implicits. So I just kept it forever and it feels amazing. I highly recommend using this on pretty much any build that has good freeze, as it just makes everything so much safer. Otherwise, not much else to say about the POB, so let's focus on the defensive numbers of the build. So right now, the configs are that we haven't been hit recently. This simulates Kintsugi, but to compensate for that, our Steel Skin is off, right? So you can see that if we switch these two, the damage numbers are pretty much the same, or the defensive numbers are pretty much the same, and you almost always have at least one of them, and I feel like this is not padding my POB. And if you look at these numbers for Deadeye, I think this is completely fine. Like, you obviously cannot take like your Shaper Slams and whatnot, but it's very hard to actually get one shot in maps. And I felt safe in maps, except some crazy combinations of Rogue Exiles, usually including Xandra, as he has RT. He was like the most problematic thing ever, but otherwise, I wasn't dying. And I don't really feel like I played particularly safe, since I was running like minus max, double fist as extra maps, and it was completely fine. Again, the build performed really well in maps, exceeded my expectations, and it was a blast to play, and I'm glad I ended up rolling it. But that is gonna be it for this build number 3 out of 20 or whatever. And I will see you guys again with the next build, which most likely will be Seismic Trap. It might be something else, but I hope you guys enjoyed this journey. Please make sure to like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. So first, let's do a map with Legion and Ritual. I spent most of my time on this character farming Ritual, but I've done a few Legions, so I know it does well enough against Legions. The one thing I will mention, I don't have any nodes into Legions, so it's a little harder than it would be if you were actually spec'd into it, but the build still handles it completely fine. Hopefully you will see during this map. quick Toxic Sewer showcase with Delirium, Beyond, Extra Beyond, Merging Radius, and Elder Influence. Just to see how this handles like decent density. So let's get into it.